Hello, today I'd like to share some sketchbook pages I made recently at the French annual Urban Sketches meetup in Lyon. I actually got there a few days before because I was going to do some demos for a small group of sketchers, and unfortunately at the beginning the weather wasn't too wonderful. I started off by doing some little views of balconies and windows from a coffee shop, and then also went to the art museum and sat under an arch to do a little bit of the foliage there. You can still see like the damp bits here. This was a drawing which you can see is actually stuck together near the Musee de Confluence. Again, sorry for my pronunciation. And I had actually visited Lyon before and I'd been to the museum, but I just wanted to get started and try and do a drawing, but again there was rain. This was a view from my hotel room. I was on the 5th floor and looking across, and I love all the chimneys and the different aerials. There were quite a few birds flying around as well. I just sort of picked out the bits that I found interesting up there. So these are some of the pages when I was doing some of the demos for the sketching group, thinking about the shapes and leaving spaces. One of the sessions we did was in the Botanic Gardens, which is really beautiful, and this was my sort of demo on the spot when I showed how I use three types of tones: a light tone, medium tone, a dark tone, and also the paper as well, so it gives you a fourth one there. I started thinking about the colours that were in the city. Obviously, because it's very rainy at the beginning, everything seemed a bit greyed off, but it's quite a mixture because you've got the very big blocks, you know, the very traditional French sort of looking blocks with the shutters and the little balconies, but then you've got other interesting buildings there too, and the rivers either side. I'll show you a map at the end so you can have a look. This was another little drawing done when it was raining outside in the cathedral. They had this beautiful stained glass here. I just going back, I went into the department store and got a little sample of perfume, and I stuck it in, and it actually makes my book smell really nice, so I might do that again. So these were my demos I did for the sketch group. It was a very beautiful square, and I was showing them how it was all about how you start a drawing and how you use shape. So I did a little demo. These were all very timed, so maybe it's 2 to 5 minutes, just to give them an idea, and then they did their own thing a bit later on. And this was another sort of demo piece to show them how I introduce colour rather than just sticking to the one tone, which was simpler for this because obviously we were doing it timed. And then also talked about how you can, once you've got these big shapes down, you can work on top of them with pen or white gel pen. So this is one of the first ones when the actual event started. I'm going to put some clips in of the how busy it was. There were so many sketches, and it honestly was a bit overwhelming at first, so I thought I'll take myself off somewhere a bit quieter to start with. So I went up to the Basilica, Notre Dame, which you could get the funicular up to there, and I just did a little bit of the decoration. This is a view of the Basilica from the city, from the main peninsula of the city, and as you can see, it sort of dominates the skyline. It was this was another one where it was still a bit rainy, so I stopped twice, but then I decided I was going to leave it like this. I always enjoy doing all these sort of foliagey bits and the bit of the stormy sky. That was done with a small amount of pencil first, and then direct watercolour. So as I said, there were lots of sketches, and it seemed a good opportunity to try and draw more people, which I'm always saying that I want to do, but sometimes not actually doing. So I wanted to do them in the same way as I approach buildings. So some of them work and some of them don't. I quite like these two here, and I quite like this sky. This was the first attempt, which is terrible, and this is the sort of second attempt where I'm a bit more stylised. On one of the days there in the main square, there was I don't know, a gathering of Bulgarian folk dancers from different parts of Europe. I'll show you some clips. There were so many people and it was so much energy, really exciting. I tried to do a little of some of the costumes because they were all different. Each group had a slightly different one. The people there, they were so friendly and they wanted to know, they were telling me about the festival and also asking about the sketching, because there was quite a few sketches there too. I suppose it's a bit similar to a lot of sketchers meeting up. This was a lot of dancers meeting up, but a bit more riotous, I think. So here's some more sketches, and then I stuck in a few bits, some stickers from another artist and some tickets. This was the part of the city which is sort of on a hill. I'm going to try and say it right. Troule, and there was a building on the corner and it just had a lovely shadow, so I was with a group of others from Germany and we thought, oh, this would be a nice place to stop and do a sketch. There's lots of graffiti on it, but still, you know, quite urban, but very interesting to draw and quite nice to look at as well, I think. Here's another one from that part of the town. This was looking down. There was a big pathway down right to the centre of the city, and it was quite difficult and, well, interesting to try and capture the feeling of it moving down here. And there's also obviously the normal things like you get in a city, like a delivery bike, coffee shops, things like that. Some graffiti here. This was a different view from Croix, more sort of traditional viewpoint. There was a cafe up here which we sat in for a while, and here's some of the sketches there, doing some of the drawing. This was my last drawing. It was at one of the Troules, which are these sort of passageways that are in Lyon. There's some very old ones in the old part of the town, but there's also some ones, these were actually in the mid 19th century. They look really modern though, and they have a lot of history to do with the silk workers of the area, and then also the resistance during the Second World War. But it was a very small area where we sat, but it was also quite lovely because we were all like trying to get our drawings done, and before the last meetup of the session. I put this one here because this was a bakery I went to a few mornings to have breakfast with some of the other people from the UK. It was really lovely, but I just thought afterwards the shapes were quite complimentary, so I had a map here. That was my last thing to stick in, just to remind me of what it was like. I took the train there. I went to got the Eurostar to Paris, and then changed, and then got the train from Paris to Lyon, which took about 2 hours and didn't stop anywhere, so it was relatively quick. I really like doing train travel and to go to places. If you like more information about things like that, or want me to do a video about that rather than just the sketching, please let me know, because I think I've picked up a few tips along the way. So it was really lovely to go to the meetup. It's the 4th one I've been to in France. They're always so well run and well attended, and if you ever get the chance to go, I really recommend it. Next year it's in Rouen, so that should be good too. So yeah, very lovely week spent there. Thank you very much for watching.